Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and today I am joined by a very special guest. One of my favorite shows on Netflix is Unsolved Mysteries. I grew up watching that show as a kid, and I love the revival on Netflix. Gabe Torres is here today, who not only directed over a dozen episodes on the original run, but he's also a director on the new batch. How are you doing today, Gabe?
Great. Glad to be with you to talk about our show.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And first of all, congratulations. The new batch of episodes went to number 1 on Netflix in the US. That's amazing.
It did. We were, really surprised. Not surprised that people would be interested, but great to hit number one on Netflix and all streaming in the US on our day two and stayed in the top 10 for a few days there.
Yeah, that's incredible. How does that feel to have something that you put so much time and effort and energy reach number 1 and know that so many people are out there enjoying it and taking the time to watch something that you work so hard on?
It's really great. We put a lot of time and effort into the shows, and I'd love to hear people's feedback and see that people are enjoying that even after so many years. It's just a classic formula to hook people and bring them in.
One of the things when I was watching this new batch of episodes that I was wondering was when you get these mysteries for these episodes, are they assigned to you or do you go and pitch like, oh, I've heard about this or I was wondering if I could do this episode? How does that process work?
Usually by the time I come on, they've decided what episodes they're going to do for the year, what mysteries they're going to explore. And there's a lot of criteria that go into picking what episodes are going to be done. It's a mixture of, the executive producer, creator of the show, Terry, along with Josh Berry and Sean Levy at 21 Laps. And then this back and forth that goes on between them and Netflix, picking the best stories, picking the best mysteries. There's a research staff who's combing the internet, looking through police records, looking for stories. Sometimes it's a mix of, when to revisit something that's been done before, like this season, like the Mothman, which I did, or the Jack the Ripper story, which are classic mysteries. It's sort of name recognition, if you will. And then, there's those classic ones that no one's ever heard of, like the body in the basement story about Amanda and what happened to her. And that one, no one heard of until, that much, unless you're from Calgary, until this batch. So really, kudos to our research staff who do this. And there's a podcast, that they do, an Unsolved Mysteries podcast.
Ooh.
And so that's on, all the time. And Terry hosts that, the creator of the show. And they kind of use the podcast sometimes as an audition for, what will make a good episode too. So there's maybe 80 stories on the podcast.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out because I am hooked on this show ever since I was a kid. And the first time I remember as a kid, I it was on late at night, and the intro song that you guys still use to this day gives me chills. If I'm home alone and that song comes on, I have to change it because I can't. I don't know why. Like I know I normally don't get scared, but that song, the piano keys, just to this day terrifying.
Yeah, that's very, that music is, people always, when I tell people I work on the show, they go, oh, that music always
Yeah.
gets me. That's one of the first things they tell me.
So you mentioned the episodes that you did for this batch. You did Body in the Basement and you did The Mothman Revisited. I was curious if you had heard of either of these mysteries before you started working on these episodes.
I had heard of the Mothman, from, all the sort of legendary cryptid stuff that goes around about it. And then also because of the feature film, The Mothman Prophecies, that was out some years back. And the body in the basement story about Amanda up in Calgary, I knew nothing about until our executive producer started to tell it to me on the phone and say she was interested in me doing this episode.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, both of the episodes you did this season were so interesting and so different from each other. And
Yeah.
there's something that I noticed. I really think it started during the pandemic in 2020 when everyone was stuck at home. But I feel like more and more lately, people are obsessed with true crime. Why do you think that true crime series and podcasts are so popular today?
I think, the reason what makes a good unsolved mystery story to me is, a number of avenues that could have happened, but also there's an emotional connection to the people involved, the victims' families, the investigators, and we as an audience become invested in that investigation. The way we like to tell it is to follow sort of the traditional police investigation and reveal information in the story, the way that our investigators discovered it or the family members discovered it. So we start out with, something that looks like it might have been a suicide or an accident or something, or just a person who ran away or wanted to do. And then as you peel back the layers of the onion, you discover there's something else going on here. And we let those things, and people are like, drawn in and like, oh no, there's more, there's a husband who was this, and the husband's sister this, and all this stuff you keep, whatever little bits of information you keep reveal make you want to know more because you become emotionally invested with the
Yeah,
people. That's the key,
yeah,
emotional investment.
very true. What do you think it is specifically about Unsolved Mysteries that has made it last for decades?
Precisely what we were just talking about. It is, I think there's a quality to the storytelling that this staff and these people that have come together do that is, head and shoulders above most of the other true crime shows. When I start looking at other true crime shows, on TV, I can see that, they're not told well. The interviews don't look good. They're not cinematic. The reenactments aren't cinematic. The storytelling, the editing, the production value of it isn't to the level that Unsolved Mysteries is. And they also find good stories, and they'll only tell a story um, if they have all the pieces to tell it right. Do they have an investigator who can take us through it? Do they have some family members? Do we have all the elements to tell a good story? And that all is credit to Terry Muir, who was one of the original creators of the show, who's still the executive producer of the show, and she's the driving force of it. And she knows how to pick a story, knows how to tell it, and keeps us all at a level of keeps us on our toes and keeps us focused on you know doing the best job in the field.
Hmm. There was another kind of mystery that I was watching on Netflix not too long ago about the Cecil Hotel. And something that was revealed to me that I didn't know anything about, and I'm curious if you know about this, is there's a growing number of people at home who try and solve these mysteries using the clues from these documentaries. Have you heard about this at all?
I hadn't, no, I hadn't, but people certainly offer up their theories quite a bit, in my social media and on the Instagram of the and Twitter of the show itself.
Well, speaking of theories, that leads perfectly into my next question about the Mothman Revisited. Do you have any thoughts? Do you believe that the Mothman exists?
I believe something is out there. What it is it a cryptid creature? I don't know, but you have a lot of people who are seeing something.
Mhm.
So, you can't discount these people's story. They're credible. What they're seeing, I don't know. Is it the giant blue heron? Is it a cryptid of some kind? We have very little, photographic or video evidence. We have none of the Mothman, just eyewitnesses. So it's hard to know what people are seeing, but um, having done this a number of years and sitting down with these people, I have to say they're seeing something.
Yeah. Have you ever witnessed anything supernatural or any like UFO or anything that you can't explain?
I did a show some years ago where we went to visit a haunting, a house. I did a paranormal show, and the idea behind the show was, the family had left, sort of screaming from the house, never to go back. The parents divorced. The kids were, in therapy because of all the stuff going on at the house. And the idea behind our this particular show was we were going to bring the kids and the wife back to go into this house that they hadn't been back in since they left. And we got there to start shooting, and they had a microphone. Everything started to go bad, all the equipment. And all that it would record is this heartbeat. And there we could hear a heartbeat. And then I said, turn the camera on the woman and have her listen to what's been recorded. And she did. And she said, that's the sound the house makes. And then when we went into the house, there was a porch swing that had been pulled into the garage. And it was in this garage. And I opened the door to the garage, and the porch swing was moving by itself. So that was my one encounter with the supernatural. I've done so many things, but that was the personally something I had witnessed.
Oh, wow. That's a great story. I'm glad I asked that because I always wonder, people who work on these kinds of shows, like, do you personally have some kind of story? And that's a really interesting one.
That was really the only one ever.
Oh, wow. Your other episode this season was The Body in the Basement. And I was wondering what the most difficult scene was to shoot, whether it was a reenactment or finding some footage of like news stories. What was the most difficult scene for you to create?
Probably, depending on how much reenactment you have to do, those can be challenging. But honestly, with these shows, sometimes the hardest thing is to do the interviews. And because you're asking people to basically open themselves up and talk about what is generally one of the most horrific moments of their entire life. And I've done a number of these shows, and you're being, therapist, you're being counselor, you're trying to get them to tell you a story, but you're also trying to be, respectful of what these people have been through. And you can't help but become emotionally involved. And in the case of Body in the Basement, interviewing Lee, Amanda's husband, was, a very emotional experience. And he was, reticent to participate at first, because he didn't know if he wanted to be on television, this way. And that's natural. And, we had support there. His mom came, the detective suite was there with him. And, I'm just a couple feet away from him he's asking him to relive that moment, which you hear in the 911 call. And you see how emotionally distraught he is in our interview. And that's real. And you have to stop and start and try to give them space to let it out, but also make sure you're getting the whole story. So, what you see in the show is only a few minutes, but that's about 6 hours of
Oh,
him
wow.
sitting in a chair talking to us to get what you see in the show.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to ask you about as well. People at home, I think, don't really understand because we're just watching it at home from the comfort of our couch, and we don't see, the behind the scenes of what it takes to get these stories and these interviews. So when you do have to speak with the family and the people affected, do you have any advice for how to just kind of keep yourself a little bit distanced to continue with the work and not get so affected?
Um, I come prepared with a list of questions that I build along with a story producer and our executive producer. We kind of all work on that list, to make sure we're getting everything we need out of that interviewee. But I'll start crossing things off and adding things, and depending on how the interview is going, and making sure that I'm letting them tell a story. You want to ask a question and let them go, and let them tell you a story. I don't want to talk a lot. I want them to talk. Um, but the best way to make a show is to become emotionally involved in it. And you do, and you become emotionally involved in these stories, and you stay up at night. Some of them keep me up thinking like, wait, can I solve this? Can I figure this out? Can I bring this family peace? And you turn the things over in your mind over and over again. I'm looking through police files and footage and graphic photos and everything. And when you go to sleep at night, you have to try and let that go. But sometimes it stirs around in your head, and you're up at night. Last season there was a case that stayed with me a lot because it was a young person, and you know, I just wanted to figure it out. You know, it was this kid that disappeared on a college campus, and that one was really, really hard because you're interviewing the family and several detectives across 20 years who've tried to figure this one out. It's just so, we're so close to figuring it out and just not there, but it just haunts you, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any activities that you use to unwind after a long day of the interviews and a stressful day of shooting?
Um, yeah, usually when I'm working, I'm somewhere else. I'm not at home. I'm in a hotel room somewhere in another part of the country. So generally, the crew is great. We've all worked together for years, so we just go out and grab dinner and just talk about anything else other
Yeah.
than the dark aspects of the case, and just have a good time and kind of try to explore whatever city we're in.
Mhm.
What's a good, my one of my producers, she's always great. She's like, oh my God, I've got all the restaurants lined up for what we're gonna do after work, and so in Calgary on the Amanda show, we went up to like rooftop bar and saw the city at night and it had just really had some fun. Went up to Banff and saw the lake and everything up there. So just trying to you know see the better parts of wherever you are in the country.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's always nice to get to explore. That would be my favorite part is just getting to be in new environments and meet new people and see new places. I was also wondering, so you've done 13 episodes on the original run of the
Mhm.
show, and then now you've been working on the new series. Is there a mystery out there that you haven't tackled yet, or that you haven't made an episode about that you would be interested in covering?
I haven't really thought about, the other mysteries. They usually find their way to me.
Mhm.
When a new season starts up, I'll get the call, hey, we're up again, and I'll say, yeah, you got, can I do three this season? And okay, and like, here's what we're working on, and you know, Terry's really good at, my executive producer, of picking a story and fitting it to the skill set and personality of that director.
Mm.
And I think she knows that I have a certain way of working, and I come from an emotional place, so she'll give me some of those. And she knows I made a monster movie last year. I did a film called The Wendigo, which is a creature movie. So she thought, oh, okay, let's do the Mothman, which is not unlike the Wendigo, another tale. So yeah, I think she thought I'd have fun with that one too, which we did. We had a guy in a Mothman suit, and that was fun.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
looked really fun. I've been checking out your social media and seeing your behind the scenes posts have been really interesting too.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure to put a link in the description of this video to your Instagram so people can go check
Oh,
it out and see
please.
all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah.
before we go, I
Excellent.
just have one last question. So for Unsolved
Yeah.
Mysteries, there's a lot of mystery movies out within the past few years. Like I'm thinking about the Scream franchise, and then you have the Knives Out franchise. Do you have a favorite mystery movie?
Favorite mystery movie? I got to go back to, when I was a kid, it was the original Murder on the Orient Express,
Oh,
the
nice.
Sidney Lumet film from 1974. I loved that. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, perfect,
So
perfect.
that would probably be my fave.
Oh yeah, I love that movie as well. Well, Gabe, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join me and speak with me about your new episodes. And
Sure.
congratulations again on all the success. And I can't wait to see what you work on next.
Thank you so much, and encourage people to tune in and watch the show on Netflix.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone go check it out. It's streaming on Netflix now, and I will put a link to the trailer in the description of this video as well. Thank you again, Gabe, and have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thanks, Taylor. All right.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.